I think, Ben. Well, let's move across to the so-called mainstream, or better known as the legacy media. And of course, for many people, through their letterbox dropped to Sunday Mail yesterday. Let's have a look at the front page. It says that Labour's Dan Norris suspended by party chiefs after police swoop on his West Country constituency home. Starmer rocked as MP held in rape and child abuse probe. Now, the thing is that front page goes to Labour's Dan Norris, but nothing about Dolphin Square child abuse, which I understand is stalled at the moment in the Daily Mail editorial queue. But thankfully, smaller outlets that do exist have been doing some good work in the background. And although we have known about this for a while, it's only been now that it was appropriate for us to point you to your local Guardian, and there is an address there on the on-screen image so you can find it, where the headline was, "What do we know for sure about the Elm Guest House scandal?" Now, this was a guest house where men were going not only for homosexual sex, but children were involved. And in the mix, a lot of people involved with the police and indeed the security services. But this local reporter, Charles Thompson, has produced an absolute fantastic article, and I'm going to encourage people to go and see it. But it includes some excerpts from documents. Here's the Met Police total policing, and it's talking about the way people were behaving in this particular accommodation. They were watching homosexual pornographic videos, and it gets very mucky indeed in some of these. So I'm not going to go into huge detail in today's news, except to say go and read the detail, because this is about the sexual abuse of principally young boys. But my point is that whilst the Mail on Sunday is printing a front page about Dan Norris MP, the role of the state and the Metropolitan Police, and indeed an MI5 agent in respect of Elm Guest House and the subsequent cover-up, that goes unreported. Now, there was a second report by this same man, Charles Thompson. He says that the IOPC won't publish the Elm Guest House police officer statements. So it's well known now that there are a lot of statements by police that have not been brought forward and put in front of the public. Why not? Because there's a very big cover-up by one of the police watchdogs. So if we have a look at some comment from the article, it says a police watchdog has refused to release documents about a paedophile ring investigation, despite publicly relying on them to dismiss serious corruption allegations, and that's corruption in the police. The Independent Office for Police Conduct has suppressed witness statements gathered in its reinvestigation of the notorious Elm Guest House, a Richmond brothel, that's a homosexual brothel, where a national inquiry ruled in 2020 that child sexual abuse took place. So if we have a look at this organisation, of course, they've got a glowing website about how good they are. We're the Independent Office for Police Conduct. We are the Police Complaints Watchdog for England and Wales. We're not the police. We are completely independent. Well, we'll see about that in a minute. We investigate the most serious complaints and conduct matters involving the police, and we set the standards by which the police should handle complaints. And of course, they like to say, as usual, that their vision is that everybody is able to have trust and confidence in the police. But it's very clear this organisation is helping the cover-up of key evidence, including key evidence from police officers demonstrating that children, especially very young boys, were raped and seriously sexually abused in Elm Guest House. But they don't want this coming to the surface. Let's just have a look at a little video clip of the IOPC bigging up itself and its role.
Following a series of scandals involving the Metropolitan Police and criticism of a perceived lack of independence in the existing complaints process, the Police Complaints Board was created by an Act of Parliament in June 1977. The 1981 Brixton riots and the Starmer report on allegations of racism in the police led to pressure to reform the Police Complaints Board. As part of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984, the board was replaced by the Police Complaints Authority in April 1985. Following the murder of Stephen Lawrence in April 1993, public confidence in policing was again questioned. Sir William Macpherson's public inquiry into Stephen's murder called for the creation of a new, independent watchdog to oversee and investigate police complaints. In addition, a study in 2000 by Liberty, the human rights organisation, argued for an independent body to investigate police complaints. This was followed by the Police Reform Act of 2002, which, among other policing changes, replaced the Police Complaints Authority with a completely independent investigatory body. The Independent Police Complaints Commission became operational in 2004 and replaced the Police Complaints Authority. It had greater powers and its own team of investigators to probe the most serious incidents. The IPCC had doubled in size between 2013 and 2018, and structural changes were needed to better suit a much expanded organisation. In January 2018, the IPCC became the Independent Office for Police Conduct. In 2020, the police complaint system was reformed to make it simpler and more effective. The IOPC received new powers, including the ability to investigate without a referral from a police force. A greater emphasis was placed on taking the learning from complaints to help improve policing practice overall.
So a mind-blowing little video and, of course, music or a throbbing beat in the background to destroy your brain as you watch it. But let's look at some of the people involved in this pernicious so-called independent organisation. The person I'll focus in on is Rachel Watson, who was appointed Director General of the organisation in April 2024. Independent, Ben, if we have a look at what they say about themselves, that Rachel has significant public service experience, having worked in the heart of government for more than 20 years. This includes a decade working at the Home Office, where she was policing director for 5 years. So somebody who has been part of the system that has failed is then brought forward to so-called the police in their failings to date. This can't be accidental. Now, in the UK column event on Saturday, when we were talking about the deep state and indeed the failings of the deep state, one of the points that I made to the audience was effectively that our security services keep telling us they're listening to us to keep us safe. But if we start to look at the agencies themselves and what their key people do, we learn something rather different. So this is from the Secret Intelligence Service website, where they're talking about Sir Richard Moore, the 17th so-called C. What he has to say is that he's there to help preserve the rules-based international system. So they didn't know anything about the widespread abuse of children, including in Elm Guest House, where personnel from MI5 were reported at the time as being present. They simply didn't know any of this was going on. Now, at the time, UK column reported heavily on what was going on with Elm Guest House, including Cyril Smith, high-ranking police, a leading tycoon, a National Front member, Sinn Féin, royal household official, an MI5 officer, pop stars, and originally some of the former spies in this country. And the other thing we pointed out is that people warning about this abuse were ultimately threatened by special branch. So I'm going to say this is a big thing in the background and it is coming to the surface. But of course, the other thing the column reported on was the cover-up of this abuse by David Cameron's Conservative government. One of the things to note in this very busy diagram is NSPCC, and that links back into the front page of the Mail report, and that Labour MP. Read the article to understand why. But also, of course, what we're seeing here is the abuse of young children in Dolphin Square, where there was also a massive cover-up. But apparently, the Metropolitan Police and our security services don't know anything about it. Now, just to end the segment by a little bit of focus back on the failure of the established media, if we have have a look at just one of the internal pages from that Sunday Mail, it is complete comic. We've got a mixture of a lovey story about the king. We've got crass politics being mixed with cheap films. We've got Elton John and loose women. And we've got a headline about a nervous British company called Land Rover. But of course, you have to read the article to understand it's not British, it's Indian. And of course, this is where it takes everybody, is a double-page spread where we are accused of having the problems, the mental health problems, because of things we've done wrong, when in fact what the Daily Mail is doing by printing this dross, in my opinion, is absolutely attacking people's minds. Now, Diane, welcome to today's news. And one of the things that we'd like to stress to our audience is that aside from the videos that go out, the news programs and the interviews, there's a huge amount of information in the articles. And today you wanted to draw people's attention to some of those articles. Welcome.
Yes. Hello, Brian. Hello, Ben. It's good to be here today, even though I'm still quite tired from the weekend.